we are still trying to understand services. Okay. So you see that we might even repeat most of the things we talked about from last week. Okay. So by way of an overview, we will try to understand service firms, the definition of service firms, and then the distinctive characteristics of service operations. Last time we looked at the distinctive characteristics of a service. Here we'll be looking at it from the perspective of operations and what implications it has for service operation managers. And then the service package. What is a service package all about? And then we will try to understand the service process metrics and strategic classifications of services. And then what an open system view of service also implies. So at the end of the day, you should have a good understanding of these specific areas when it comes to the nature of service. So what is a service firm? From last week, we understood what a service is. It's an intangible experience. Okay. So a service enterprise or a service firm are organizations that facilitate the production and distribution of goods and support other firms in meeting their goals and add value to our personal lives. Okay. If you're a production company, you could have a service firm in the sense of ECG or Ghana Water, providing you with certain facilitating goods to enhance your operations and your activities. You could engage the services of a law firm to help adjudicate or to help you throughout with all legal cases or even signing of contracts. So services firms provide either goods or services for other organizations and sometimes directly to consumers. So for us, a restaurant organization will be providing a service directly to consumers. We have riders and courier organizations providing distribution services for restaurants. Okay. So when we think of a service organization or a service firm, it is a wide and a broad range of enterprises or business organizations who could be providing a service to another business or simply providing a service directly to individuals, consumers. Okay. So if you know what a service is, any organization that provides a service is considered a service enterprise or a service organization or a service firm. So when you think of a service package, last week we saw a little bit of the examples of a service package. We have what we call the supporting facility. Services in most cases are conducted in a facility. That facility that helps us to provide the service is called the supporting facility. So I'm going to mention some examples of service organizations, and you tell me what supporting facility they need. So let me begin with a very easy example. Hairdressing is a service. Or, yeah, hairdressing is a service. What facility do they need? Supporting facility do they need? Hairdressing is a service. What facility do they need? What supporting facility does hairdressing require? Okay, not interested.
They will need
Nanama,
hair cream, hair products.
supporting facility. I'm sure you are mixing that with something else.
Okay.
What facility do you require as a hairdresser to be able to provide that service?
You will need, I think, plumbing works.
You are breaking it too down. You need a salon, right? That is a better description of the facility. The supporting facility is a salon. And the inside the salon, that is where the salon should have some plumbing works for washing of hair and drainage and everything, and even the hair dryer and
The chairs.
Okay. Let me ask, how about transport? Transport is a service. What facility do you need? What supporting facility do you need for transport? Transport is a service. What facility do you require?
Cars. Vehicles.
Vehicles, We are 2 exams I'm waiting.
Insurance.
Or you don't think road network is also a facility? So when it comes to transport, road network is also a facility. A terminal where you will pick passengers and also drop passengers off. What we call station, terminal, is also a facility for transport services. How about healthcare? Healthcare.
Yeah,
what facility will you require? Supporting facility will you require?
Hospital.
Yes, a hospital premise. Okay, all right. Yes. Yeah. So usually when we think about supporting facility, we are thinking about usually a relatively larger infrastructure that creates an ambience, an environment where the service can be provided. Okay, so you always think about the structure in which the service is being conducted from. So if I ask education service, what facility do you require? That would be easier. Education.
Need a school.
School premises.
But a more refined infrastructure will be something like a lecture facility. You see, a lecture hall, sort of. Okay. All right. Now, as for facilitating goods, we mentioned them last time. And when I mentioned hairdressing, somebody was talking about some of the pomades and hair food and other things they use. Those are items or products that you consume along the service provision. So whereas supporting facility is a more fixed and long-term and durable environment within which the service is provided, facilitating goods are those products that are consumed or expended during the service provision. Okay. Then information. Why do you think information will be part of the service package? Why is it an important aspect of the service package? Last time we mentioned something about the service, and we said I used an analogy that we have a saying in our local language. One kasa otiri ho a eyiwa yibone. Okay. When they are providing service for you, you must constantly provide feedback. Assuming somebody is massaging you and they are pressing somewhere and they are hurting you, if you don't say IJ, how will the person know they are hurting you? Before you know, they'll pluck off your head from your body. Okay, so services also requires information. So in the service package, you, the recipient of the service, will need to provide the provider some kind of information. That exchange of information between you and the service provider or the service station, okay, facilitates the customization of the service to serve your needs better. If you go to the bank and you don't communicate to them, they will not know what you need. And until you tell them or you provide details, information about the transaction you want to make, they cannot provide a satisfying service to you. Imagine going to the hospital, Dr. Miyari, Samiyari, then that's all. Doctor, I'm sick. Heal me. It doesn't happen like that. The doctor will have to take your vitals, and based on your vitals, they will ask you questions. What did you say is wrong with you? Or what is happening? I can see your temperature is this high or that low. What is happening to you? Have you been sleeping enough? Have you been taking in much water? They'll keep asking you questions. And based on your answers to the questions they ask and the vitals they have taken, they can have a fair idea what might be wrong with you and then prescribe some medicine for your treatment. But if that information is not there, if that information aspect is missing from the service package, you can imagine what the service experience will be like. Now, besides these three components in the service package, we have what we call explicit service. This is the most visible aspect of the service. Usually, when we say we are going for a haircut, the actual product in the service is you having your hair reshaped. That is called the explicit service. If you say you are going for a lecture, the lecture as I'm delivering at the end of the day is the explicit service you are obtaining. But you know that whilst I'm delivering the lecture, I'm still multitasking, admitting you guys into the class. I'll still be answering your questions, addressing your needs along the way, which is not part of the explicit service I'm providing. There are days you have concerns. You may want to speak to me one-on-one to resolve an issue for you. That becomes an implicit service. Okay? So the service package has an explicit side, which is usually the name we give to the entire service package. But there are also other implied, not so explicit in the service. So if you pick any service at all, you can see that there is a clearly visible aspect of it. Usually, it is what we name the service after. If you take restaurant service, it's more of being served the food. So you request the food and the food being served is the explicit service. But when you are inquiring much information about the foods, what is contained in each of them, whether it is compatible with your health or not, that is not part of the explicit service. That will become what we call an implicit service. They may, at the end of the day, provide you warm water per your request to be able to wash some grease off your hands before you can eat. That is implicit. It is not explicit. If you are paying for anything, it is mainly the explicit service that your judgment of fairness of the pricing is based on. But most of the implicit services and others, they are not directly tied to the charge or the bill they give to you. Okay. In some cases, in most cases. All right. So supporting facility, as we mentioned, are the fiscal resources that must be in place before a service can be produced or sold. So if you are thinking about golf as a game in terms of a service, then a golf course, a ski lift, a hospital, an airplane, as we have mentioned in the examples we introduced earlier. Facilitating goods we have met already. They are goods that are consumed in the service provision process. They may be consumed on the consumer or within the service facility to ensure the consumer's property or himself is being processed accordingly. And we already know examples of these: food items in a restaurant, legal documents when it has to do with a contract or a legal service that you are requiring, golf clubs, the stick you will need to kick the golf ball, and then medical history, information about you, your past medical history, or you can even think about things like medications, the drugs that will be used in healthcare will be facilitating goods. Information. Service relies much on data. Information provided by either the provider or the service recipient to facilitate the co-production of the service to enable efficiency and customer service in the service provision is information. So another important package in the service package. So if you are going to hospital, your records, your vitals, and the information you provide to the healthcare specialist serves as the information aspect of the service package, which allows them to understand your situation well and address you better. If you want to book a flight, you want to know seat availability, you want to know information on price at whatever time you are booking the flight and all other information. Customer preferences, telling what you want. If you are buying wachi, be the mimpe mako, mimpe shito, mame shito kakrabi, give me gari, give me macaroni. I don't want the green leafy vegetables. Your preferences. These are information that allow the service to be tailored to your satisfaction. Explicit services, they're readily observable by the senses or that can be significantly experienced by the service receiver. And mostly, like I said, we name the service after the explicit services we experience. So the quality of the meal at a restaurant or the type of meal they serve, the smooth driving after a car repair becomes the explicit service you receive from a mechanic. The absence of toothache after you have gone for a dental surgery will be the explicit outcome. It is what you use in judging whether the service has been done or not, or has been performed on you, your property, or your assets or not. Okay. And usually it is these explicit services that guide how we describe the service, we explain, or we even name the service. Implicit services, like I mentioned earlier, are sometimes not so visible, readily visible, or observable by our senses. Rather, they are more psychological benefits or extrinsic features which the consumer may sense only vaguely because they are not too obvious to be seen by everybody. You may go through a particular service, some will observe the implicit services, others may not pay attention to them at all. Because if I wanted my car fixed, I just care about my car being fixed. If I sit in it to drive, I want that smooth pass from Toyota Ghana, an implicit service that the customer may not pay close attention. So the customer service elements, which of workers, the ambience of the restaurant, go to 3 p.m. for it, and you go 3 p.m. and the car is ready. You are not necessarily paying for that promptness, but you see that it is an implicit service they are providing beyond the explicit service, the repair. They are providing you a free auto repair, which you are not really paying directly for, and you are not really paying attention on. It is only when they fail, these implicit services fail, that is when you begin to feel that they were really important. Okay? Another could be the prestige or the status of a degree from a particular institution or university. That you see that the school you completed or you obtain your degree from always has a reputation. It has a status. It has a prestige attached to it. All recognized and accredited universities will provide you with a degree that can serve the same purpose. But however, the difference in feeling of the fact that you belong to a particular university, you got a degree from a particular prestigious university, becomes an implicit service provided by that university, which you are not necessarily paying for. For instance, KSTU is a state technical institution. Beyond it being accredited, it is known for entrepreneurship and innovation. Okay, so if you compare the technical schools in Ghana, I'm sure they have different reputations. So that different reputation each of them possess becomes an implicit service. That gives you the graduate a sort of prestige for belonging to that technical university. When it comes to the mainstream universities, there are many of them from private to public, and among the public, we know a very few of them are standing out, saying that every student wants to go there unless they deny them an admission that they begin to look elsewhere. What are they looking for? They are looking for the implicit service from there, a prestige attached to the degree they will obtain from those popular universities within the nation. Okay. But the explicit service from all education will be the degree you obtain at the end of your program. And the implicit will be the prestige that you attach yourself with for having a degree from a particular recognized university. So let's briefly look at the distinctive characteristics of services. We saw these, if not exactly the same, similar ones from the previous lecture. So this is a familiar story for you. Okay. Last week we mentioned that. All right. Last week you mentioned that services are such that the production and the consumption is simultaneous. So we see simultaneity here. We also mentioned that services are intangible. We see them here. And we also said that every service provided at any point in time is unique. Heterogeneity. Two services cannot be the same. Two haircuts cannot be the same. Why? The barber may be in different mood in shaving the two different people. The two different people also present different hairstyles, hair shapes that can influence the quality of the shaving. Okay, so there are so many variability in services causing heterogeneity. Then we also mentioned that services are co-produced by the customer. The customer has a role in the service production. So service is co-produced by the customer in that the customer is a participant. Is indirectly a participant in the service production process. When you compare to the production of physical goods, they are often done in a factory in a distant country where the consumer has no reach to that production system. But then when it comes to services, we mostly present our items, our properties, our pets, our children, or we ourselves for the service to be performed on. And how we conduct ourselves and the contribution we make and the cooperation we provide during the service delivery goes a long way to affect the quality of the service. So proper customer participation in the service process. You become an active participant in producing and delivering the service. If you fail to produce or provide relevant information to help them customize the service to your needs, it will affect the quality of the service provided for you and your overall satisfaction. See, so there's a need for attention to facility design, opportunities for co-production, concern for customer and employee behavior. So when you are designing a service facility or a service system, as an operations manager or a supply chain officer or a business development manager, you need to recognize that the service is a co-producer and the customer is a co-producer in service. Hence, your facility and the design of the service should accommodate the customer. They should have a waiting room. And when the service is performed on the customer, there should be an arrangement for the customer to be received comfortably, to be able to conduct themselves in the manner in which the service has been designed to provide a more satisfactory service for the customer. So you go to the barbering shop, they have sofas, they have TVs to keep you engaged and entertained while you sit and wait for your turn. Now, when you sit on the wheel, it is usually a wheel that can rotate or a comfortable seat so that as you sit on it, you can sit upright for the barber to perform his job. Not only It is all surrounded with mirrors to allow you to see the way the shaving is going, so you can provide ongoing feedback whether you like the way it is or not. Even in a salon where there are no mirrors around and like already fixed mirrors on the walls, they will often give you a mirror to check the way the shaving is going, whether you like it that way or not. Okay. So this distinctive characteristics of service is an important consideration when one is designing a service facility. Simultaneity. The production and the consumption of service is simultaneous. This kind of interaction creates customer perception of quality, in that as you are producing, the customer is observing and making a judgment about the quality of your service. If you make a mistake, it cannot hide. Unlike production of tangible products, where you can produce, if there's an error, you can take it back to the factory to correct it before it comes to the market. But here, for a service operations manager, when you are designing a service, you should become conscious of this simultaneous production and consumption of services like that. You design the system, the service system, to minimize these kind of errors, because as you are producing, you cannot hide your mistakes from the customer, because the customer should be present, and as you are providing the service, the customer is enjoying it alongside. If you make any mistake, most of the times you cannot take that back. If you use a foul word, if you get angry,
okay, no problem.
if you try to use any shortcut, it is there and there before the customer, and they continuously form their perception about the quality of the service. And that is something you can never take away from the customer. So if you want to, however you want to position yourself as a service organization to the customer, it must be incorporated in the design of the service delivery, such that as you are providing the service, the consumer is consuming the service concurrently and is forming their own perception about the quality of the service. It is the reason why when you see most service organizations, they create a very decent ambience around them with certain kind of illusionary facilities, lights and stuff to create an impression management, because it's very important.
Why?
As the customer steps foot in there, let's say your restaurant, and they see that there are a lot of tables that people are eating and the plates are left there, they have not been taken away, they have not been restored for new customers to come in. They just form an impression about the quality of your service there, and they can just walk out.
Hold on,
if a customer walks in and sits by a table and calls on a waiter or a waitress, for whatever reason, if you show any anger or disrespect, you can't hide it.
Okay.
Even if the customer is annoying, the least mistake you do by reacting to that annoying customer, you cannot change, you cannot hide that from the customer. Okay? So we say, when you open your mouth and you say a word, and from the call, you can't hide that from the customer. So as a service operations manager, and being aware of this simultaneity, anything you want to prevent from the customer from seeing, you have to consciously design that in the service process. It is the reason when it comes to certain important services where impressions and perceptions of quality is important, they always have a special training for their contact personnel. Air hosting, for instance, so that you learn how to use courteous words. You learn how to manage your anger so that you don't easily explode before people in the course of discharging your service. Okay? Because once you commit any error, discipline act, right there and there, you can't cover it. The customer is there seeing you. Okay? Then perishability. We say something is perishable when it cannot be withheld or stored over a long period, when it has a short lifespan. The fact that services are produced and consumed instantaneously means that it cannot be stored in most cases. We talked about the few exceptions which has been enabled by technology today. Okay, but prior to that, or majority of services are that perishable. As I'm teaching, if you are not able to record, what it means is that if I finish teaching and you were not on the platform, you have lost the class, you have missed the class, you have missed the service I'm providing. Okay. Now, this has implication for operation managers. Since you cannot inventory or you cannot store a service, you must make sure that you generate adequate demand for the service facility based on the capacity, so that the facility is continuously engaged from the start of the day to the end. Anytime you fail to match demand with capacity or capacity with the necessary demand, you are losing. Your supporting facility will be idle. And that idle time, you are losing money. You are losing the advantage or benefit you could potentially get from that facility. Think about a barbering salon who is not able to generate consistent demand throughout the day. You will go and they are sitting outside, chatting and laughing, but the lights will be on, the TVs will be on, playing music to draw attention. All that time that you are playing music with your lights and everything on, you are not barbering anybody. You are consuming electricity and you are paying bills for not working. Okay, so you cannot shave hairs and put down so that when people come, you take it and wear them. Our ladies nowadays are changing that. They can have their wigs already pre-designed. When you come, they fit it on your hair and you go. Okay, so like I mentioned last week, advancement in knowledge and technology is gradually changing some of the distinctive characteristics of services almost all the time. If you can know in advance what a customer wants, the style the customer wants from a wig, you can actually style that wig and wait for the customer to come before you try to fit it on their head. Okay? So these are just a few examples that depart from these distinctive characteristics. But what is most important is that most services on average cannot be performed in advance before the arrival of the customer. Because of that, you always have to find means and ways to generate consistent demand to occupy the facility. And that becomes one of the important jobs of service operations managers. It's one of the things we will talk about in detail in chapter 5 onwards. Intangibility. You cannot see and hold and examine a service like we hold a product and examine a product before we purchase. So the customer prior to purchase cannot have a good judgment of how the service will be. We have a saying that when you dip your hand in an old lady's food, you are stuck. You cannot remove your hand until she does. You are not able to tell whether the food is nice from looking at the food. But once you dip your hand in, whether it is nice or not, you cannot withdraw your hand before. Okay. So it's the same analogy we can apply to the intangibility of service. You may not have a perfect knowledge about how good a particular restaurant service is, even if you get another customer to explain to you. It is your first-hand experience by eating there. That's when you get to know the true quality of their service. So if it's about a hairdresser, beyond word of mouth, you present yourself. You must go through the service before you can determine whether it is good and worth the price or not. Now, let me tell you a story about an experience I had during the vacation. There is a particular restaurant or eating place inside the Kumasi City Mall. I will not mention the name for anonymity sake. We entered there, we ordered for the food. Then before the food came, they brought our bill. But we are seated here, we are going to eat here. So why we should pay the bill before they bring the food, or pay after eating? There is pay in all of them. So let's pay. Then we paid for the meal. Now, when they brought the meal and we tasted it, it became obvious why they take the money before serving the meal. If I had known, I would have sat in my house and cooked something and ate with my friend. Abba, we took the food and said, really? And I was up. Actually, when we entered there, we only saw one person, a man and his kids. And as we entered, nobody entered there again till we finished eating and left. I now understood why the place was empty. We just wanted variety and we said, let's go there. And imagine our surprise. So, in order to avoid any confusion and any form of shema with customers, once you tell them what you want, they will prepare the bill for you, pay. When you pay, then they will go and bring you the food. We did not hear that. So there is that challenge for you, the service operation manager, to deal with when it comes to the intangibility of the service. So if it becomes part of the service design to do your best to delight the customer, because they have no way of knowing the service experience until they actually experience it. So when you they invest in nice edifice, nice and clean and tidy environment for you to create an impression about the service provision first before you even try. So like the earlier example I said, you walk to a restaurant and you realize that the tables are not well kept, they are not clean. It creates an impression for you. There isn't much information for you to tell how good their service is, but for them to give you that impression, even a receptionist, how they talk to you, they train all those people to inculcate this kind of quality service and the possibility of having a nice experience with them all along. So like we studied in supply chain management from last semester. Customer service, pre-transaction elements. Services tend to employ a lot of the pre-transaction elements to create a positive impression about the service that they provide, to create a customer service policy for the customer to know what they should expect, the level of quality and attention they should expect, and who to contact in case there is any service failure point. Okay, so those pre-transaction elements become important for your service design because of the intangibility element of services as a service operations manager to help the customer take a more firmer decision in deciding to present themselves to your services before they regret it. Okay, so creative advertisement and reputation counts a lot. Okay, to create that initial positive impression to invite people to come and taste your service. Good souls are not returnable. It works a lot for service. It is difficult to recover a service once you ruin it. Okay, and it's difficult to remove that perception from the head of somebody who had a bad experience with you. All right, heterogeneity. We said services performed are never the same, mainly because even if the service provider is doing their best to standardize the service they provide, the customer is coming in different shapes, different complexion, different temperaments, a whole lot of things. And this complicates the variety in the service delivery process. Okay. So in typical operations, you would easily want to standardize your production so that you can exploit economies of scale and other things, right? Kindly give me a minute to respond to this call. Know who the person. Sorry for that. Okay. So because of the customer involvement in the delivery process, there is that high level of heterogeneity or variability in the service delivery process. In typical operations, we want to customize and standardize. We want to standardize every process so that we can simplify and improve from time to time. But because of this variability in services, standardization becomes very difficult. Okay, and it presents one of the challenges for managing services. Okay, so it requires the firm to have systems and procedures that will ensure the provision of consistent services. You don't want, no matter how diverse the customers are, you want to ensure that when they leave, they should have the same perception about the service. Okay. So I have this funny understanding when I see bank tellers, most bank workers, you see that they have this facial, excuse me to say, this facial reconstruction. Look at their eyebrows. They always trim their eyebrows so that when you want to crumple out, when you get it by force. Have you observed that? Almost all bank tellers, they have trimmed their eyebrows to create, you see, that visual illusion that what's in him. I've been observing this for a time. Almost every bank worker will always go for facial makeup. It's as though, I don't know for sure, but it seems like it's a requirement. And usually when people go for that kind of makeup, where they trim their eyebrows, it appears it creates that visual impression. So when it comes to me, in my observation, the banking sector, it's like It is a way of ensuring that the contact person you meet in the bank they should have that presentable face all the time. So up there, it appears they have a cheerful face. Okay. So it's the reason most service organizations undertake frequent training and development for their staff to at least help them to do their best to provide consistent services to their customers. Okay. So although the customer may present significant variability, it becomes the work of you, the service operations manager, to do whatever it takes to organize the service in a way that no matter how annoying the customer is, you end up shaming the customer in their head by still not responding to their anger, but focusing on providing the service so that they will leave there satisfied. No matter how complex a customer is, that customer to still be served, to have now customers who may not know, there will be less instances where they will ask you to go back and make corrections. Okay. If you are asking to do treasury bills, if you are in the category who cannot read and write, they have a bank teller or a bank worker they can assign you to help you explain things to you and fill the form on your behalf. If you cannot sign a signature, they make a provision, an alternative way by using thumbprint to get you to endorse forms before they can process. All these are ways of trying to design the service to ensure that with a different category of people who come, we still should be able to meet their needs so that they live there having the same impression about the bank. So let me take our own bank for life, GCB for instance. Whether you are an enlightened person or you are an illiterate, one thing is common. They are reliable, but their processes are slow. Whether you are educated, enlightened, or not, these facts are real. So you realize that they have done their best to standardize their services to provide or to cater for the needs of different variety of customers. Such that whether you are an elite or not, one thing is clear about them. They focus on reliability of the service to minimize mistakes at the expense of how much time you spend there. That is speed. So they prioritize reliability at the expense of what? Speed. So everybody knows that about GCB. That is a perfect example of how an operations manager can deal with heterogeneity. Okay. So whether you are an enlightened person or you are anti-boy, you know one thing about GCB. Oh, you can, they are reliable. But another common problem everybody observes, regardless of your level of education, is that when it comes to speed of delivery of service, they are one of the slowest. All right. So let's pick perishability and look at how we can deal with it as operations managers. So one way you can deal with perishability is to smoothen demand. One, we talk about demand smoothing, okay? You realize that for most typical services, the rate at which customers appear throughout the day is not consistent. Think about transport service. We have the morning rush hours between 7 to 9. Everybody is going to work, everybody is going to market. So there is high demand in the mornings. From 11, 12, and 1, truck drivers become frustrated because there are no human beings at the various bus stations looking for cars to board. Why? Because it is the peak working hours that people are at their working places or are inside the market doing shopping. Then towards the evening, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5 onwards, then there is another evening rush hour where there is high demand for transport service because people, the day has ended and people need to get to their homes and to their families. So you realize that there is a point where there is high demand that the transport service facilities cannot really handle the demand together. At the same time, it gets to midday and cars are running empty. Trucks are running empty because there is not enough demand. And it gets to the evening, there's another peak demand, such that they can't even serve all of them, and they begin to do the short thing. Some of them even begin to inflate prices. Okay, so because of that unpredictable nature of demand in a service facility, one strategy we can do is to smoothen demand. And this is how, for example, I've shown this is how truck drivers try to smoothen the demand. They use price incentives. And then the long distance they move, they use that as an incentive to smoothen demand. So if you are not in the early mornings, they may go short. They are using price incentives because with the short, they increase the prices indirectly. In the night or in the evening, beyond the short, when the hours are very old, they begin to increase the price, especially when it is threatening to rain. They inflate the prices to take advantage of the situation. So, though how they do it may not necessarily be a decent way of doing business, in operations management, we can actually use price incentives to smoothen demand. So in the mornings, the same distance, we can price a little higher. Okay, then in the afternoons where people don't demand much transport service, we lower the price. What we try to do is that people who don't need to go to town early in the morning, they may use this price incentive to delay and wait till around 10, 11 thereabout, and then they can decide to go to town. They can board the truck to go to town to enjoy the low price at that moment. When you do that, it is not everybody who needs to go to town in the morning. It is not everybody who needs to return back to the house late afternoon. So you find that this price differentiation at the different periods within the operating hours, it will force some consumers who don't want to pay the high price to patronize the service at the off-peak period. That will release tension and pressure on the service facility at the peak periods. When we do that, we say you are smoothing demand. You are trying to spread the demand away from the peak periods to the off-peak periods. That's what we call demand smoothing. Another is to use reservations and appointments. So most consultants do that. Instead of everybody to come on Friday or Monday to crowd at their office, you don't just wake up and start walking to the consultant's office or to the lawyer's office. You call and the secretariat will book you based on the demand they have on each day. They can appoint a specific time that you can meet the manager or the team so that you don't come and add up to the already peak days or peak hours in the day. So we can use the idea of reservations. Some restaurants do that. Over here, we don't patronize restaurant service as much as it is in outside. Outside, if you don't have a reservation and you just walk to a restaurant, they might not give you a table because they want to make sure that at every hour, the facility is occupied. So you call in advance, then they give you a time that is available. They first ask you of your preference when you want to come and have your lunch or dinner or whatever. Then, based on the availability on the days and the time, they may give you a particular appointment. I'm sure most of us have tried to travel before to go and get visa. And you realize that you don't just get up and walk to the embassy to apply for visa. You first have a capacity of applicants they will process. If you leave applicants, they will just come and crowd at the place in a particular day, and there's nothing you can do about that. Meanwhile, there are other days in the week, nobody will even come there. So you can use reservations and appointments to schedule customers across the entire operating period so that you will not have a peak period and an off-peak period. That helps us to smoothen out demand in a service operation facility. Another is promotions. You can actually use advertisement and promotional packages to reduce attendance at peak periods to motivate others to also visit the facility in the off-peak periods. So this is one way, 3 ways we can deal with the perishability of a service by using demand smoothing, okay? The second major strategy for dealing with perishability is adjusting the service capacity, okay? In the first place, you spread the demand so that there is no pressure on the facility by ensuring that you offload customers from the peak periods to the off-peak periods. You are balancing demand. You are smoothing out demand. The next strategy is adjusting the service capacity to accommodate the demand that is coming. Assuming you consistently have high demand all the time, then demand smoothing cannot be a solution. Think about MTN service centers. All the time you go, morning, afternoon, evening, people are queuing there. So you can see that there is nothing like a peak period and an off-peak period when we compare with the transport service. Therefore, if you want to use demand smoothing, it will not solve the problem for these MTN service centers. But however, you can adjust capacity, increase the number of service centers so that you can accommodate the demand that is coming in every day, or increase the number of servers at each service point so that plenty people will be serving fewer customers at each time so that customers will not have to be waiting for a long time. So you can actually increase your facility, which is having more service outlets. You can also use what we call part-time help during peak hours. The banks nowadays have been using that across their branches. When, especially KNUST, before month ending, you may see them, most of the banks using fewer tellers because the demand is not high. Then they will deploy these other tellers into maybe mobile banking or looking for new customers or selling their products or their packages to customers by visiting people's offices and all that. During month ending, the high peak period, they will increase the number of tellers who are serving the customer because many customers come into the banking hall to transact. At the same time, they can also be shuffling and shifting their workers from one location to another branch where there is peak demand. During vacation, how many people use banks inside school facilities? Very few. So during vacation, they deploy most of their tellers to go to other banks other branches where there is a peak demand or there is high demand in those areas. So you can use scheduling, that is work shifts, to vary the workforce need according to demand at each period or at each point in time in your service facility. You can also go outside the organization to hire part-time workers to help you during peak hours. Most private hospitals do that. They are not able to pay healthcare professionals, full-time healthcare professionals. So they pick 1 or 2 residents and that's all. During their peak period times, they engage part-time nurses who are full-time nurses in other facilities to come and work at those peak periods for them, and they pay them just a part-time remuneration. Okay? Sometimes too, if you cannot exploit these 2 avenues of increasing the service capacity through part-time or work shift schedules or opening other branches, you can actually go ahead to increase the customer self-service content of it. Okay? Instead of always having the customer come to the organization for you to serve them, you can actually offload part of the service to the customer. Remember that the customer is a co-producer of the service. You can leverage on this, simplify and standardize some part of the task for the customer to perform so that they can even automatically perform the service for themselves from their phone in the house instead of coming to your service center. So you see this mobile banking service, the mobile apps, the ATMs. You see, they have been designed to increase self-service so that you don't even need the service organization to literally perform the act for you. Okay? And let me ask, can you think of examples of services where they have increased the self-service aspect for the customer, such that the customer most of the activities by themselves? Any examples? Yeah, you either give it to me and I'll validate it for you now, or you do that in exam. So, examples of self-service content in service operations. Samson.
Yes, sir.
You wanted to give an example?
national ID cards people. I think unless you go to them.
Unless you go to them.
Yes, sir, you can't do that online. You have to go to them.
Okay. So
yes.
I'm asking for examples of ways they can increase the self-service, such that you can do most of the things by yourself other than going to them. Daniel Owusu.
I think the passport, now you can do everything by yourself before.
Exactly. Except when it gets to the biometric aspect. Daniel.
Please, ATMs.
Oh, but we mentioned ATM already. Were you not listening? Open the air for power. Moses. Moses, your hand is up.
Please, what about online banking?
Oh. So were you not listening to the lecture? I mentioned online banking, mobile banking. Moses. Okay. Oh. Let's continue. And then the third option in managing capacity or perishability of a service operation is to allow customers to wait. And I think that's the option MTN is using. You go to the mall, there's a tall line, customers are waiting to be processed. You get to Susanso, there's a tall line. You get to Batman Market, there's another tall line. So my question is, when do you allow customers to wait? When do you use this strategy? We have talked about two key strategies. One is reservations and appointment. What do you call it? Smoothing the demand. Two is adjusting the service capacity. And three, allow customers to wait. Why will anybody go for option three? To allow customers to wait? Any opinion? At what time will you go for this kind of strategy? Yeah, Moses. Moses, unmute your microphone and speak. Moses. All right. When should you use this option? I'll mention that name soon. Let me see. Yeah, those who have their hands up. Marcel, you can. Marcel, yeah, you can. Us. Yeah, you can us. How? Hey, how is absent? Hey, how is absent? Who is Jasmine? Who is Jasmine? Yo, say what about? Yo, say what about? You end up saying why, but it is why, but it is. Or you do that in exams. All right. So we've done the perishability. So is someone speaking? You have your hand up. Unmute your microphone and speak. Eh?
So it's when the people
Hello.
Hello. Sir,
Your hand is up.
I say when the people have no alternative.
Come again. Come again. I did not hear you.
When the customers have no alternative.
Exactly. When you are enjoying some kind of monopoly, customers don't have an option. They don't have a choice. Then they will wait. So MTN care less because all the other competitors are dying out day in, day out. So you don't have a choice. That's why they do that. All right? Okay. So dealing with intangibility, we have dealt with perishability. So now with intangibility. So services are ideas and concepts, hence we experience. Okay. Now, problems for the service owner is service innovations are not patentable. And why do we say that? When you have one idea, and even though you have not told anybody, it will shock you that you go online, you go and search, and somebody else is having the same idea you have. Somewhere in 2024, I shared an idea with a friend about how communities can generate electricity without, besides the Akosombo Dam and also solar power. I discussed the idea where, especially in the crowded places, marketplace, even on the roads where cars run more frequently, we can build systems on the roads instead of using speed ramps. Those special speed ramps could be driving mechanisms to generate energy for the community. I shared this idea with a friend, and a few months later, he came back with a video where Japanese have actually implemented the idea. Pavements have been mechanized like that as people walk on them, it generates electricity for the community. I did not share that idea on any internet platform or any medium, but somebody else is thinking about it. So because of that intangibility, it becomes difficult for someone to lay claim that that idea is originally theirs and nobody else could possibly think about that idea until you perform the service or you commercialize the service. So because of that, service ideas are quite difficult to patent. There's a high difficulty to get a service idea to be patented because it's intangible and it becomes difficult for you to defend that you are the only person thinking about that idea. So most services are not patentable. That is not to say that no service can be patented. So if I start a provision store here and your neighbor also begins their own provision store, you cannot go and claim any patent there. And no government will patent you starting a provision store unless the idea is highly innovative, such that it is difficult for somebody else to have thought about that possibility. So very few services are patentable.
Jimmy. Oh.
That is why the growth of services is so fast. I can come and experience the service, patronize your service. By the time I leave, I understand how you provide it. I can go and start another one to compete with you, and there's little you can do. But highly innovative services can be patented, but not all of them. So one solution you can have, if your service idea is highly innovative, rapidly expand your service across the country, across the world, so that since you are the number one who started it, if your services are duplicated all over, it kind of demotivates people to begin to compete with you because you have captured the market. Another way is to expand through franchise. You set up a unique recipe such that you patent this idea and you sell franchise to people across the world. You build an image for yourself. So there's like KFC. What is it that they sell? Is it not food we already know? But they have a unique recipe and they've gained a reputation. And people want to eat or associate themselves with KFC. So KFC quickly sell their reputation throughout the entire world. So that in Ghana here, even in Techiman, we have KFC. You see? So they are able to reproduce the same recipe, the standard of service across the world just through franchise. Okay? So even though services may be difficult to conceal and difficult to patent, one way you can deal with this problem, intangibility of services, is to rapidly expand the service so that competitors, potential competitors, will not have the need, they will not have that edge to compete with you, but to look at a different way of also establishing their own service. Or at worst, instead of starting a restaurant chain all from scratch, like Chicken Man Pizza and those other ones did, they could simply go for the global name, KFC, all right, through franchise. So they don't even have to worry about building a reputation from the scratch. People will rather purchase your franchise, the name you have already made, to provide the same level of quality service, because in a franchise, you give them your recipe and you provide them even sometimes with experts to help provide the same level of service that you provide internationally. Okay? So this is one of the ways you can deal with the intangibility of service, which makes it difficult to patent. Okay? Now, what problem has it got for consumer? Customers cannot see, feel, and test the service before consumption. I think in our previous slide, I explained how we can deal with this. Enforce registration, licensing, and regulations by the government to protect consumers. You see, so you, the organization, can use the way your business ambience and appears to create that positive mindset about what they are expecting to see. Again, you can use your pre-transaction customer service elements to communicate to the customers, to give them that assurance of the kind of quality they should expect to receive.
Boss, good evening.
Nationwide, government may use enforcement of business registration and then issuance of licensing, and then also using regulations or regulators like Food and Drugs Board and those guys to protect the interests of the consumer. So if you go there and they have formally registered their business and they have their business certificate and they have the license to practice and provide that kind of service, and they have a certification from FDA that shows that their products are safe to consume, then it gives the consumer that kind of assurance. So these licensing and registration and regulatory bodies within the country also provides an avenue for a service firm to prove their reliability, okay, or the quality of the service they provide so that consumers can have confidence in them, even though they cannot test and feel the service before. In other organizations, they provide what we call service guarantee. They can offer that guarantee to the service consumer that you can pay for the service, but if you are not satisfied, we can return your full service fee back to you. Okay? Or you can return back to have another service performed for you another time, free of charge. Okay, so you can use service guarantee to solve with this intangibility problem that it causes for the consumer. But for you, the service owner, the difficulty in patenting your service idea, you can solve it by rapidly expanding and using process matrix. Services can be classified across two main dimensions. When we want to pick a wide range of services and classify them, we can classify them on two dimensions. The degree of and customer. Okay, so let's see how kind of this interaction and customization involved in that service, low versus high. Then, the more classified as a service, and the less labor intensive, we tend to call it a service shop. Okay, so let's see how it goes. So where we have key sanctuary, if you go to a water, the procedure is simple. You register your visit. You go, they give you some whatever you run.
Okay, the cable now connect your TV straight.
High labor organization. For instance, retailing. Imagine the whaling and involved in it. Wholesaling, packing and unpacking, loading and offloading. Retail, okay. So in the in-bank services of people who will now provide services to the customers. But the kind of service they provide, they are highly standardized. For instance, either you are making a deposit, opening a bank account, or making a withdrawal, or exchanging foreign currency. The services are not, they are standardized. And regardless of who you are, the similar service will be provided for you. There isn't much of customization. It is on your account or your request, not on you, the person, in essence. Then when it comes to high degree of labor intensity and high degree of international customization, we have most of the professional services. Doctors, lawyers, and accountants. The interaction or the service that is provided between you and these specialist professionals is highly customized and it involves a high degree of what? Labor. When you enter the consulting room, mostly there aren't a lot of machines there. It is an interaction between you and the doctor. And the quality of the interaction is what will provide the quality of care that is given you. But beyond the consulting room, almost every other thing else is facilitated with the use of what? Machines and equipment, which place them under the service factory. Hotels are like that. But professional services, you see here we did not write hospitals, but we wrote what? Doctors. Okay.
But try me the no class and the one with the real media in city.
Then lawyers, an account desk, and a book to keep your details in there. But when you come, it is more of man hours, discussions, explanations. Think about a psychologist.
A ben any the so.
Okay. When you go for psych evaluation, you spend more time talking with the psychologist with little or no intervention of machinery or equipment in the process. And I'm sure with this knowledge of matrix, when you are given a list of services based on your knowledge on how they work, with regards to the degree of customization, you should be able to classify them in the quadrant or in the matrix.
Fiber broadband in MTN. Kwa private me akoto telecell for the set telecell for so will be. Omo office na e post office on. I do post office on. Almost be ma the
Challenges for
no be fast telecell.
service operation manager.
Yeah. Okay.
The key challenges is that there is low interaction in each of them and low customization, but it requires good marketing, making the service warm, creating an interesting environment for the customer because you are not interacting much with the customer. So you must provide a warm environment for them. You need attention to physical surroundings, your ambience, where they will sit, while they are waiting. How will they be engaged? So think about it. Most of services interaction and customization, you see that they often have TVs and moving screens, something to engage the customer around whilst they provide a service. Okay. So you tend to manage fairly rigid hierarchies with need for standard operating procedures so that you can provide a concept. When it comes to those on the top, we know there is low degree of labor intensity. So from both the service factory and service shop. At this point, with that low labor intensity, you have to take a lot of capital decisions in terms of equipment and machinery that can help you in delivery of the service without high involvement of labor capital or labor effort. So technological advancement becomes a key consideration here. And then managing demand to avoid peak periods and to promote off-peaks. Because when it comes to labor is easy to increase and to reduce by using overtime and part-time workers. But when it comes to these services that contain low degree of labor or labor intensity, you cannot easily expand your capacity. So you therefore have to use the capacity management strategies to manage your demand management strategies to smoothen your demand from peak periods to off-peak periods so that your facility is not overwhelmed. Then you can also use scheduling of service delivery. Okay. So that you do not overburden the service facility. Usually these equipment and machineries change quick for you compared to when you raise them when we are in the off-peak periods. But where the labor intensity is low, your capacity management is stuck with the capacity of your equipment. So you better manage demand and use scheduling. Okay. Or appointments in a service shop. These are the challenges you will face and the solutions you can work around to manage your facilities. When we come to here, we have these who have high degree of customization or interaction. Service shop and professional services have that in common. High international customization. And over here, fighting cost increases. Okay, because you are customizing each service for each customer, then it is difficult for you to achieve standardization. Customers with different attitudes will have to be tolerated throughout the service provision, and that increases your cost of service running. So fighting cost increases a lot for you. And then maintaining quality becomes a problem because of the high degree of customization. Last week, somebody was asking a question that so if a customer comes to a barber and they ask for a particular haircut that will not fit them well, can the barber deny the customer the service? Because if they go ahead to give them that haircut style, it will tarnish the image of the barber. But that's what the customer said they want. What can you do? Either you do it for them and suffer the quality issue, or you word of mouth from that customer you have rejected. Okay. Then reacting to customer intervention in process. You always have to allow the customer the room to make input, to interact the service delivery process, to make adjustment to that. That one becomes another challenge you have to face. That level of customization. Think about building. You have because as they advance in their skills, to work faster of the keep on with the new styles customers may come in and request. Hierarchy with loose subordinate superior relationships. Instead of going for a long hierarchy that has the problem of red tape and also bureaucracy. You need to give your previous relationship of customization for customers when they appear, and then gaining employee in a hospital. You need highly trained doctors who know what they are doing. If you keep hiring quack doctors, your service will keep failing. But to increase the positive outcome of healthcare delivery, you need the best from every now and then. Now, you need to also focus on methods development and control. When you are dealing with high degree of labor intensity, you must manage and control these people because you heavily depend on their professional expertise. If you don't develop methods for control within the organization, you might find it difficult to guide and direct their actions so that a step on their professional
Premier League no motor players.
if you don't take care, they'll use your shop to sell their own drugs, and your own drugs will be sitting in the shelf and expire. A cost check. In the shop is very important. See, now he paid, let's say 2,500 to 3,000. Strive to get 3,000 for this suit. But if it becomes here don't like to pay, so sometimes they bargain and I have to sell to them at 2,500. Friend who wanted to buy a suit. Now when the friend went there, the guy told him it is 3,000, no reduction. Meanwhile, after selling the suit at 3,000, when the owner came, he noticed that it had been recorded 2,500. So the lowest price acceptable for the owner. Making a profit of 500 into his pocket, and he will still be paid salary at the end of the month. So he confronted the guy and the guy wanted to deny him. So that everything you do within the shop is recorded live and clear. Okay? So that if you call people outside to negotiate with them, when they come to the shop, your pricing and your negotiation is recorded. So you cannot swindle the owner again. So that different customers with different pockets can still buy the product. Services of the shop attendant without these measures in check or these control measures in place, these professional shop attendants advantage and to the disadvantage of the businessman. Okay. So you see Chinese shops, they don't take surveillance to make you see them in very important thing. Okay, rather than over when they are tired, they begin to make a lot of mistakes and errors. Control of far-flung geographical business in Accra and you yourself, you are in Kumasi here. What do you think will happen? I have another. For a long time, he had not been going there. Recently, for a part time. Then you realize then you have geographical location from your own presence. How you will exert control over the business from such a distance also becomes a challenge for you to manage. He actually approached me and he was asking for a time clock in machine which he can monitor from Kumasi here. Of them. So I helped him search for some of these time clocking in machines that takes fingerprint as well as photograph in, and when they are clocking out, and the device is placed like that anytime you enter the facility, how to get access to leave. All right. So you and it sends automatic report. It accepts a SIM, a mobile SIM that you can load data on, and you can configure it to send you real-time report on your mobile phone or computer, or even through email, without relying on the every lecture. So they can monitor the quality of the lecture, the interactivity, student participation or not. So they don't need to even come to the classroom to check. They just have a CCTV camera monitoring everything to know whether and spend the hours they were supposed to spend. All right. That is because these are mostly professionals who are discharging their services, and the quality of the service is dependent or reliant on these individuals. And that we need to really pay attention to how we manage them to ensure they don't pretend like they are working, but they are actually working. And you too owe them the responsibility of paying them well and ensuring their welfare so they can work happily for you. Start up of new units. One way of expansion is to start new units, expanding. So it is the only way. You cannot increase your capacity there, but what you can do is starting up of new units of the professional service that you are providing. And then managing growth. Those professionals will not manage your growth for you. You, the owner or the manager of the facility, will have to manage growth. When you are expanding the capacity, it is affecting their workload. How do you manage that? Okay. Through various incentives and also certain subsidiaries can allow you to grow whilst you manage the service of these high labor intensive service organizations.
Amsterdam.
All right. Let's deal with the last aspect, which is strategic service classifications. So from a strategic insight, we can classify services to achieve a strategic insight for managing services. We can look at that from the nature of the Service Act, the relationship with customers, their customization and judgment, and method of service delivery. It has a lot in common with what we have just looked at, but the goal of this classification is to look out for strategic insight that will help us exploit advantage with the service we are providing. So let's see this classification too. The recipient or the direct recipient of the service. It could be people, individuals, human beings, or their properties, their artifacts, their things, their pets. All right. Now, the nature of the Service Act itself, it can be tangible service or an intangible action. So let's look at people. Some services can be performed on people's bodies. Example, healthcare. A tangible action like an operation procedure or a surgery procedure may be acted. It could be a massage or a physiotherapy action. So it is tangible on the body of the person. Passenger transportation. We carry you from one location to another location. If you reach in one piece, a tangible action has been performed on you by moving you from one location to another location. Beauty salons. You enter there with your bushy hair, but you return with your hair well and nicely arranged, and you are looking new, and you are expecting comments. You are expecting people to pass compliments on you. A tangible action has been performed on you, even though it's a service, but this action was performed on your body. Another is exercise clinics, or like I mentioned earlier, physiotherapists. You go there, or even gyms. They take you through a series of exercise. Those who want big nyash, they get. Those who want flat tummy, they get. Those who want big and long arms, like chimpanzees, they also get. At the end of the day, we see a physical manifestation of the service on the body of the person who goes for that service. Restaurants, you enter there hungry, they feed you, and now your face will lighten up. You walk out with a toothpick in your mouth, licking your teeth, and belching on. Something, a tangible action has been performed on your body with your protruding stomach. We see that effect also. Your energy goes up, and we can tell you don't look hungry any longer. So a tangible action has been performed on your body. Now, intangible actions can be performed on people, but in this case, not on their bodies, but also on their minds. Education. If you leave this lecture, there is nothing tangible to show. But if we could enter your head, we will know that you've had a more richer understanding of services and their classifications. That happens in your head. We cannot look at you and see that there has been a tangible transformation on you for attending the lecture. But it happens in your mind, in your intellect, in your reasoning. Okay? Broadcasting, news, whatever you are broadcasting, a campaign, It is information you are giving out. It is information you are spreading. That information is consumed by the mind, by hearing through the ear, by observing through the eyes. Information service, as we see in our communities, it is not a tangible something, but it is a way of communicating certain kind of vital information to us, to inform us, to orient us in the mind regarding our planning and our choices and our options regarding certain activities. Music and movie theaters, museums and movie theaters have this experience of encountering antique objects, and that is it. It's only an experience in your head. Watch a movie in a movie theater, nothing happens on you physically, but every experience is within your mind, okay? We can also classify service by virtue of an act performed on the properties of a person, but not the person, him or herself. It could be your physical possessions. A tangible act can be performed on your physical possessions. Some example is your parcels, commodities you have purchased or procured. They will be transported, movement from one place to another. It is different from passenger transport, which is performed on the human body. But these are on your properties or your possessions. Repair and maintenance of your vehicle, your home, your shop, whatever you are repairing, it is your property that is receiving a tangible action. Veterinary care, your pets. Janitorial services, still your properties. Laundry and dry cleaning, your properties, your possessions. And these services tend to have a tangible manifestation on these. We also have intangible possessions or intangible assets. Banking, it is performed on, you think your money, it is not your money, your wealth. And your wealth is intangible. When you go to the bank, it is only accounts they manage there. The money is not yours. It's a legal tender by the nation. It is just a way of transferring or holding part of your wealth to form an exchange, a medium of exchange. But your wealth is your bank account, and that is your possession. And that is managed, that is an intangible possession, okay? It is liquid income or liquid asset. And what they do in the bank is to manage those accounts. And all you see is tables of balances and transactions. That's all. That is intangible. Then we have legal services. When you have money, you have a court case. It is a case. It is not anything tangible. And again, an intangible action has to be performed on that. Going to the law court to defend your case is an intangible act. Your case itself is intangible, and how we help you in the court process is equally intangible. Accounting. Every property, every income, every expenditure, every asset of the organization is translated onto paper. They don't deal with fiscal assets, fiscal managed corporate accounts just from an intangible perspective. They deal with figures and numbers, okay? It is when we want to translate this into something transferable that leads to the involvement of fiscal cash and all that. Securities. Think about your investment. That is an intangible asset. And when we are managing them, in investment, it is still an intangible act that we are performing on those securities. Okay. Insurance. These are all intangible assets. When you have an insurance on your assets, that insurance is an intangible asset. Okay, your car insurance and all those things, life insurance, and then we have for our parents and our loved ones. All those become intangible assets, and the management of these insurance packages are also equally intangible actions that we perform on these intangible assets. We can also look at it beyond the recipient of the service. We can also classify service customer, a membership relationship through subscriptions, or there being no formal relationship with the customer. Some service does not require any formal relationship with the customer. Other services require membership relationship with the customer. So the nature of the service could be continuous delivery or discrete transactions. For continuous delivery, and then against membership relationship, you can have examples like insurance, membership, or the service package. Telephone subscriptions, we all have. Electricity bills, we all have it. You see, the service is continuous as long as you keep renewing your subscriptions and membership. Banking, the same thing. There are also continuous service deliveries that do not require formal relationship with the organization. Radio station, the service is continuous, but you don't need to become a registered member of any radio station or any TV station. Police protection. Every citizen enjoys that police protection without necessarily have to go and register to be on the police records to be under their protection. No. Public highway. Highway services are provided for everyone. You don't need to go and register to be a membership of highway services to enjoy them. Okay. Let's come to discrete transactions, which is not a continuous service delivery, a one-time transactions that doesn't have to be continuous. One, it is provided for customers who must have membership relationship with the service organization. Examples include long-distance phone calls. When we need to make foreign calls, we can make a one-time transaction that is not a continuous service, just for that period to obtain calls, like roaming services. It is a discrete transaction that you can subscribe to. Then we have theater series tickets. You can actually obtain tickets for a series, a movie series, just for that series. Anytime that series is shown, you can go for it. But beyond that series, you don't have access to the theater, any other drama that is being shown in the theater. Transit pass. It is not common here, but out there, you can purchase a monthly something that allows you to use either a train or a bus service over a period, and that is it. It expires, and if you want, you have to go and renew again, but it is not a continuous service like ECG, water, and the others that we talked about before. And then it can be a wholesale club. Where no. And then when it comes to where there is no formal relationship required for a discrete service or transaction, a restaurant, you may call to book for a reservation, but just for that time and that time alone. It is not a perpetual thing. Payphone, you buy a card and go and insert in the payphone and you use, and that is it. If you exhaust it, you are done. That's a transaction. You don't need to be a registered member or user of that particular phone booth. We have highway too. If you get there, you pay. If you return, you pay. Anytime you pass by the toll, you pay. They don't bill you continuously, but anytime you use, you pay. So pay as you go kind of services. You don't need any registration with the toll booth or something. And then movie theaters. You don't need to be a member. You don't need any registration. Apart from specific theater series where you need to register as a member who attends or who have registered for that particular series. Or nowadays, let's think about Netflix. Netflix will be in this quadrant. You must be a registered member, and then but that one should be on the upper one, continuous, because once you register, you are provided continuous entertainment from Netflix continuously. But when it comes to movie theater, if they are showing any movie and you like it, you go and buy that ticket and you enter. After that, enter again and they'll throw you away. Public transportation, pay as you pick the service. If you don't pick the service, you don't pay. You don't need any identity to board on public services. So you don't need formal registration with any public transport company to be able to acquire their services. Okay, so this is another way of classifying services weight of the service delivery. So these are just ways of classifying different services to give us a strategic insight, which can help us know how to manage the customers in our interaction with them. The next one we want to look at is customization and judgment. We can also classify services based on the degree of customization and also judgment. So we have judgment in the degree of the service. How much discretion is required versus how much customized or standardized procedures that has to be followed. Okay, so the extent of personnel exercising judgment in meeting customer needs versus following a standardized procedure. Okay, so where there is high judgment and high customization, examples include highly professional services like surgery, taxi services. Why is it that you stop at taxi routes that can lead you to the destination? There is high customization where you want to get to, and there's also high judgment. The taxi driver making decisions in terms of speed, in terms of which route should they take based on the traffic situation and all that. When to brake, when to speed, and all that. Then we have what we also call the gourmet restaurants. It is not just any ordinary restaurant. Usually, they are specialized restaurants that of the consumers who come there for restaurants to eat, those restaurants to eat. They want to know your health priorities. Do you want to slim down, tone down? Do you want to gain muscles? Or do you have a special health condition that you want special food to be served you anytime you come to eat there? So gourmet restaurants are different from the standard restaurants we have here. They have registered members who have stated dietary needs, and they make sure they provide customized diet for each of their registered members so they can help support the health needs of their customers. There is one in the US called the Loma Linda Hospital, and then also Eatery Place. They use various techniques when it comes to food to treat various ailments. Okay, so people who have special conditions go there to register as members, and they provide them special and customized breakfast, lunch. In Kumasi here, one particular shop is trying to do that, but I will not call them gourmet restaurant yet. I don't know how many of us are aware of the vegetarian canteen. I wouldn't call it a restaurant, it's a canteen at Ejum, opposite Poku Trading. Just in front of the ECG building, there's a vegetarian shop there where people go to eat various vegetarian diets. It comes closer to this example, but they don't provide customized food for different customers who come there. But a proper gourmet restaurant will be one that registers you. They know your health need for eating, and then they try to serve you customized food based on your health needs. If you want to put on weight, if you want to reduce weight, if you want to tone down your body, if you want to create the normal restaurant, the foods there are standardized. You only look at them, they give you the menu, and then you can choose what you want. But the judgment that goes in preparing them are already standard procedures. So there's no judgment involved, but it still provides a variety of customization for the customer requiring the service. Retail banking is also within that category. Then we have the low customization services that may go with high degree of judgment. Preventive health. It is general. How to minimize liver infections. Becoming insulin resistant. All these are preventive healthcare, and they are generalized for the public, if less customized. Education. Here they develop for the class, but look at each individual. How many are you on the platform? You are receiving the same service, no customization. There is no individual customization for the lecture you are receiving. If you ask a question, everybody hears, everybody benefits. Nobody gets a special treatment or preferential treatment in this case. So when it comes to customization, it is low. Family restaurants, or even family kitchen, mother has high degree of judgment in there as to what to cook and how to cook it. Everybody in the family, it is often the same food they sometimes. The chop bar operator they hardly customize the food for their customers. The same fufu, say the soup. If it's about the pepper content, they put pepper on your powdered pepper on your table and salt on your table. If you want to make your soup sultana, that one is your own business. All right. And lastly, we have the low customization versus low judgment. These are often highly standardized services for targeting the general public. So public transportation, trotro, is not your personal Uber. It's not something you have chartered. They pick you from a vantage location and drop you at another vantage location altogether. No customized treatment. And it is one of the easiest jobs to do. Drive them from one location to another location. Usually, you don't even determine where they should go. They determine in advance where they are going. And then if you think they will pass where you will be alighting, then you join the throttle. Other than that, go and look for another throttle to board on. Spectator sports, movie theaters, institutional food services. There is little customization and low judgment. Everything has been determined in advance, and we deliver the service. Enjoy it or what? Leave it. All right. So that is it for this kind of classification. Okay. We can also continue to classify services on the methods of service delivery. Okay. Against the nature of interaction between customers and service organization. So I think so far this is the most complex matrix we are looking at with 6 different classifications. So where we have a single site and then multiple sites or outlets. And then in terms of nature of interaction, we can have customer travels to the service organization or the service provider travels to the customer. And then the transaction is at an arm's length. Nobody needs to travel.
How many minutes?
So for the first one, where the customer travels to the organization at a single site, mostly movie theater. You go to the theater, print shops. But I understand this particular service is changing in Kumasi here. I understand there's a barber around KSTU who has a van, who moves around to shave people. I don't know if your class is aware of that. I think it was mentioned in one of this. Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to trimming nails and all that, you could say you go to the salon for pedicure and all those things. Nowadays, there are mobile ones. Our fellows from the Francophone countries, you hear them knocking their scissors and other metals, moving around. They have become mobile. Okay. So some of these examples are changing rapidly in various communities. So they are not fixed. Then we have some of these services where you have to travel to the service organization, but they have multiple sites. Bus services, you can have multiple terminals where you can access them. Fast food chains, different KFC outlets, different McDonald's outlets, different chicken man pizza outlets.
But
Right?
still be normal creating.
But you have to move to those sites before you can get served. But of course, nowadays all these things are changing. Fast food you can call or you can use an app without needing to travel, but they'll bring the food to you where you are. Then we have where the service provider travels to the customer. Taxi. But you should understand, not the traditional taxi, but Uber, Yango, Bolt, and the rest. Okay? And then pest control services. When you need any fumigation or any pest control, the provider has to come to your location or your facility. So this is a solid example, right? And then mail delivery, when it comes to where they have multiple sites, your mail can be delivered either in your office or in your home. Auto emergency repairs. You can be anywhere and your car develops a fault and you request for emergency auto repair. They come to your location. Except when it cannot be fixed in your location, that is when they will order for a towing service to carry your car to the mechanic shop. But some of the simple errors or faults that can be fixed outside the repairer's shop, we classify those as auto emergency repair services. Then we have services that have a single site and the transaction is at an arm's length. Credit card company. Here we will look at them in terms of mobile banking. Okay, your bank has a single site, but you don't have to really travel there because they have provided you a banking app or an ATM service or a Visa card service or debit card service just on your mobile phone. So at an arm's length, you are able to reach their services without really having to travel to meet them anywhere. Local TV stations. Whether you subscribe or the free ones, you have your TV box in your room that allows you to receive their services without necessarily having to travel to their location. The broadcasting company may be located at a single site location, but you receive the services wirelessly at the comfort of your home with your TV box, right? And then when it comes to multiple sites, there are some broadcast networks that have multiple stations across the country. But you do not have to still travel to any of them. Think about your telephone services. They have various masts around that allows you to access network at any location without, wherever you find yourself, without necessarily having to relocate or travel to the company. Okay, so those are other ways of classifying services for strategic insights. So lastly, the last thing we will be talking about is the service organization as an open system. Okay. So customers, their needs and certain factors in the environment comes in to shape the service organization's mission, strategy, and policy. Before the service organization is set up to serve any purpose in the market, they need to scan the environment to know environmental factors that requires or that trigger the need. Now, with this knowledge, they come out with their strategic positioning, their mission. To this, they develop services, okay, that will now discharge output services to meet the needs of the environment and the customers. And how do they go about developing these service operations? They go to the market, interact with customers, and then they also engage human resources, train people, empower people, and develop attitudes and cultures that are the process of the service. And together with all these HR and marketing functions, operations now deliver the design of the service package, which will include the service facility, the facilitating goods and services that is required. Okay, so they draw insights from customer needs environment to form their strategies, and these strategies are deployed to various departments like the delivery. So we are trying to understand how services are developed. We say it's an open system because it takes the clues about what service to develop from the open environment and customers who are external to the organization. Now they have to draw on multiple departments, not a single department. So think about HR, marketing, before operations. So if it were a closed system, then the organization wouldn't need input from the environment and the customers. And it will only focus on the operations department. But because it's an open system, it takes inputs from the external parts of the organization through environmental scanning and customer needs. And within its internal operations, it goes beyond the operations department to involve the HR and the marketing units to all contribute in developing the service package and its delivery system before it is actually carried out in various forms that are visible to the organizations. So often in every service delivery system, you will see that when think about the service provider, the tellers, accountant, the computer, and even the pen at the back office that is not visible to your eyes in the service delivery. We call them the back office operations. Sometimes you present a withdrawal form or a check to be cleared. You will take it and they say, wait for us. They will pass the check into them. You can actually withdraw your money for you. What happens behind the scene that you cannot see from as a customer constitute the back service delivery system? We have categories: the front office and the back office, or the front line processes exactly what is happening. Sometimes you are waiting and you don't know what is happening and you get angry. At the service delivery, there is always a feedback loop and communication by advertising from marketing that may alter or enforce the demand of the customers who will now come to access the service at the service delivery point. So customers arrive the front and back end activities, and then customers receive the service experience and they depart. And upon departure, they may be satisfied or improved or otherwise. It doesn't end there again. As customers are departing, they form an impression, which is their evaluation and monitoring of the measurement of the service performance, okay, as either quality or poor quality, which is called feedback. And that feedback, if we capture it well, it goes back to inform the operation design and monitoring and control process, okay, which help us improve the service design once again and result in a new service delivery system that should improve the customer's experience throughout the service. This service design is designed to help us picture means and ways we should use to getting ideas from them and the customer needs to form to design of the service package and delivery system. Before we design the system that will actually process customer as inputs and then to a satisfied customer output. Whilst we are doing that, we pick a feedback mechanism which help us evaluate the extent of satisfaction, customers' comment, their feedback, to go back into the operation design. This is an expansion, an explosion improvement service operations design. So we have a couple of questions for you to trigger you to think whether you have captured something from today's discussion. Okay. All right. So that is it for today. Essentially, what we looked at, the distinctive characteristics of service operations, which were closely related to what we studied last week in the service. And then the service process metrics, we saw a couple of classifying services. And then the strategic classification of services for insight, we also saw a couple of them, okay? If you are giving any service examples and you have been given any of the strategic classification metrics, you should be able to identify which quadrant each example of service can fall into. There is no need queuing them, but understanding the nature of the service and giving a particular dimension of classification, you should be able to place them in an appropriate matrix. So when you go over them, that understanding can be well solidified in your minds. And then the open system view, we exploded it into that open system that takes input from the environment and customer needs. And when it comes to form the service organization, it draws with the service design. Okay. And the delivery, which now takes customers as inputs and process them to a satisfied customer as the output. And in this process, we capture feedback to help improve the overall of the next week we meet face to face. And I'm on the more platform also.
So we are here.
No, sir.
Yeah.
We are here. We are here.
Oh, all right. So if there are no questions, I wish you. Gombe, you said what?
So I will see at the dance. And I'm saying, and die.
Okay. All right. Your cooperation throughout the period. Hopefully, we'll meet next week face to face.
Yes, sir, face to face.
And then we'll continue from session 3. So I just want to assure you, consider it as an average booster. Most of you can blow big
Okay,
case.
sir.
Just steady for me, okay? All right. So enjoy the rest of the evening. I'll send you the test slide. Please read ahead of class, okay? So that we can have a fruitful discussion.